Hi, it's Jane from the Compassion Project and Moments That Matter. I'm super excited today to have Jessica Lapsia here. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you, Jane. An honor to be here.
Yeah, so today Jessica's going to share how one gut-wrenching choice made during the pandemic led her to from feeling constrained and limited to unlocking limitless possibilities. Can't wait to hear this. So, a little bit about this amazing woman. She is dynamic, courageous, beautiful, and she's originally from Dubai. I would love to go to Dubai. That's one of my dream places. She now lives in Sugarland, Texas, with her husband of 15 years, Munish, and she is a dedicated mom to her two beautiful children, Arin and Kiara. Jessica is a consciousness coach with over 7 years' experience as an entrepreneur. She built a multi six-figure business, all while raising a newborn and a toddler. That's amazing. And that is on the heels of a 14-year career in finance, working on Wall Street with iconic global brands, leading financial strategy on multi-billion portfolios. That's amazing, Jessica. Like you are one driven woman. Like, so I can't wait, yeah, to ask you my question. Moments that matter. I really believe that there's so many moments, but there are those moments when you go back that you know that you wouldn't be who you are if it hadn't happened or you hadn't made that choice. So, yeah, so what moment in your life shifted the way you think, like impacted you, and you know you would not be who you are today without it? And now you can look back and be grateful for the experience.
Absolutely, Jane. And again, it's a pleasure to be here. Got a chance to learn about you a little bit over the last this year. And I think you're fantastic. Just a good human being and full of compassion, which I think is one of the greatest virtues we can have in the times we live in. So
Yeah.
kudos to you for the movement that you have going. So for me, I had spent years, my first venture, I'd spent years working around the clock building a luxury boutique. And just as I was putting plans in place to, hire a bigger team, step off the pedal a little bit, the pandemic came and swept the world off its feet.
Ah, so I just want to find out this a luxury boutique. Was it a little store that you were opening?
Yeah, in Texas here, in where I live in Sugarland. So I had a luxury boutique, a mid-tier luxury boutique where I styled women. And when this happened, and the pandemic obviously, took us all by surprise. So months in to the pandemic, the second wave of COVID-19 had hit here in Texas. And it was this one evening specifically that I was at the store, and it was quiet because everybody was in quarantine mode, and rightfully so I had a moment to pause. I was at the store sitting in this little swivel stool that I had, and really had some time to think, as to what had kind of transpired this year, and for some time. And I couldn't help but feel like this weight on my shoulders, like weighed down by where I had landed, in spite of giving it all I had.
How long had the store been open at that time?
3.5 years.
Oh, and was it doing well before the pandemic hit?
Yes. So that's why I was saying I was able to grow it to the point where I could have a bigger team.
Oh,
And so that is exactly what I was getting ready to do in the beginning of 2020. Like February, I had like interviews lined up all day, like just to bring that in. And then of course March this happened, so we're kind of all in freeze mode. And everything kind of changed. The entire landscape changed, not from only from a professional, from a business standpoint, but also personally in my life. And my husband was a physician working on the front lines, and just a lot of stuff that was going on. I know everybody across the world, just everything shifted, right? Like
yeah, it did.
we're living shifted completely. And so I was sitting there, just feeling drained, and then critical of myself and the circumstances that we were in, and confused, a bit
Yeah.
confused about, how am I here? Like after doing everything to the T, and it was in, I'm thinking to myself, like, the part about the boutique that absolutely lit me up. The thing that I loved the most was spending time with my clients and styling them, and just seeing them walk out the door with like several bags, feeling like $1 million, just brought me alive in a whole new way. It just brought me alive in a whole new way. And I sat there and thought, like, wondered if we would ever get back to that in-store experience that existed pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
it did happen, when would that happen, right?
Well, because you would miss the connection with people,
Of course,
because
yeah.
it's you've got that store, but you're I used to be in sales too, and I loved just the connection with people and hearing their stories, and yeah,
Ah,
and you make them feel good, and so then you feel good after for having helped someone or whatever. It's the connection with people.
absolutely, and
Yeah.
when you're serving your gift, when it kind of brings you alive as well, like what you're doing, it's just like
Yeah.
that whole merging of passion and purpose, right? Like
Yeah.
what you're meant to do. And so that's where it was. Anyways, as I was having these thoughts, sitting there on the stool, there was a welcome interruption. My husband called on my cell phone, and he's just checking with me real quick if I have a few minutes, if I'm free to like chat with the kids real quick before they go to bed. And so I'm like, yeah, of course I am. And so, we get on a quick call, and my son gets on the phone, and he's like, good night, mom. And it was fine. And then my daughter gets on. She's 3 at the time. Like, she's just 3 at the time. And she's like profusely crying. Like, she's crying. She's like, can you just come back? Like, pleading me to like go and put her to sleep.
Aw.
Um, and I promised her that I'd be there the next night. Like, I can't make it today, but I'd be there the next night. And as I got off that phone call, I had just this burst of like clarity come through me. Like, as we were just all in this mode of like, repeating thoughts, right? But there was this burst of like clarity come through, and I just remembered like the reason that I had embarked on the entrepreneurial journey to begin with, departing my finance career, right? And it was that I wanted to be able to live into more of my potential,
Yeah.
more into the fulfillment that I deeply desired, in every dimension of my life, not just in my career, but in my relationships and my health, and being more physically fit as a mom, all of those things, right? Um, and while I had achieved a certain level of success with this boutique, I had done it. When you're in the hustle and grind, I had done it. I had done it at the cost of my health, and at some level my relationships too.
Yeah.
So, quality of time with my family was really have much of that. We both were like in high pressured work environments,
Yeah.
both of us, and so that was really kind of taking a backseat. And like I said, I mean, I did have plans to kind of change, but then life happens, right? And uh,
Wow. So you were like, yeah, because you were working, work, so that you could be with family more and your children and all that. And then when you're just on that edge of like, now you have more freedom, and then the pandemic hits, and then you're probably thinking, oh my God, I'll never make it. And my granddaughter, like when you were talking about your 3-year-old, I start to almost feel emotional because my granddaughter's 3 and they just feel like they're still a part of their mom. It's a very hard separation. They feel like when you're not there, they're missing part of themselves.
yeah,
It's an age they want you there.
absolutely.
So
And
what happened? What did you do then? Did you?
so, I mean, I knew, I could feel the fear of what this meant, like this knowing that was coming through, like, but I also knew that the journey with my store had ended,
Right.
because, and so I had to make that choice. I had to make that choice and decide that, if I built something I loved once, I could do it again.
Right.
those years with my children would never come back. And I don't know that if I would be able to forgive myself if I continued living that way, you know,
Yeah.
without a finite timeline as to when does this change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so yeah, so I got away from it. I mean, and that's where I just really I found myself so limited in ways, like lots of limiting thoughts, but that's what I had to, that was my threshold, and that's what I had to cross to, and then and I think the way, I followed my heart, and it is not so easy for me to do it because I come from a finance, analytical, logical background.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And, but it, I think life happens for you, right? This was my experience. I was not exposed to the personal development world at all, but that was my first hand living it, where I did choose that thing that was coming through, like what we call intuition. Now I know this after the fact,
Yeah.
but that's really what it was. And I let my life source just kind of lead me, and it opened up this whole new world of like managing energy and spirituality and world of personal development that I'm super passionate about
Oh, I
now.
know. Me too. Oh my goodness. When you become aware, you're like, what? How come I was living like that before? Or it sounds so simple. Oh, to become aware of your thoughts. I'm like, what? When you're never aware of your thoughts, and all of a sudden you're like, wait a second, I don't have to think that, or I can, like, it's up to me to be happy. It's up to me to think thoughts that make me
Yeah.
happy. And so, and I don't know about you, but what was like, kind of, what was the first step, like after you left? So obviously you had to shut that down, the business.
Down.
And
Yes.
then, so were you at home with your children then full time?
Yes, I was at home. So I've been on this journey. So yeah, I kind of shut that down. It takes its own, like, a course of
Yeah.
doing
Yeah.
other things. But yeah, and on the side, as I was doing that, that's how, I actually, like, the first mentor that I was led to was Jay Shetty. I'm
Oh,
sure you know of him.
Jay Shetty. Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. I read his book. It's amazing.
Yeah, and I went to his habits challenge, and it was profound to me, and then I joined his program.
Okay.
He offers um, not the coaching, but his, like, just how to get back. He has a signature program which is Genius, and it's just weekly lives and things like that. And you know at the time, even just naturally, I knew, like, so I come from Jainism. I don't know if you've heard, like, it's a religion, and it's very close to Buddhism. It has very,
Okay.
like, very parallel, a lot of the same, like, thought process, beliefs, and so on.
Yeah. Mhm.
And you know the one thing that kind of I knew was, obviously, I was experiencing suffering. I was in suffering
Yeah.
at the time, and the thing that kind of shifted me is, like, he said that, and I found it in Jainism too, like, to corroborate. He said that in one of his, like, that breakthrough, that light bulb moment, is that, he says that beneath every pain, there is a false belief.
Beneath every pain, there is a false belief. Mhm. Mhm.
And that's also, in a way, that Jainism talks about, that humans suffer because they don't understand their true nature. That's
Yeah.
the only reason they suffer, you know. And there isn't anything on the outside that can have that power over you. It only does because you let it,
Yeah.
and you allow it, and you don't fully realize the immense potential you carry, and the limitless possibility that lives inside of you. You're so expansive, but yet we try to fit in a box. Yet we try to play in certain ways as is reflected upon us, right? Like, and we become that, but we are not that. We're not our body, we're not, our mind, we are our soul. And
Yeah.
once we truly understand that and live into that, life is a whole different ballgame.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. So what was your, like, what was causing you the suffering then? Limiting belief. Like when you heard that, were you like, oh my goodness, this is what I'm believing and it's causing me to suffer and it's not true.
Yes.
What was it?
I love that question, and I almost cringe at this. And it's a hard habit to break, also for me. It's not easy, but I always, like, growing up, I always believed that um, having you, in order to have more, you have to do more, and it's an endless cycle, because as humans we always want more, right? Like we want
Yeah.
more fulfillments, anything, right? You could even be in charity or service or whatever it is, but you do want more because it's an expression of you.
Yeah.
It may start out with your physical needs, right? Like, human needs like food and safety and home and all these things. Then it goes on to your psychological needs, which are your love and belonging and all of those. And then it's self-actualization and service. Like, what do you want to do in this life? What do you want to create? What do you want to leave behind? What do you want your life to be about? And all these things. So you always want more, right?
Yeah.
At some level. Uh, and so I did believe that in order to have more, you have to do more. And for me, it became like an endless cycle. Like, I worked insane number of hours. Like, I don't even want to say here because it's just not a good example, right?
No. And then you're never satisfied. You're always trying to the next. And you know what's so crazy? Because I'm a grandma. So I mean my grandchildren are around the same age as your children. And it's gonna make me cry because I'm like, we're go, 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 and we're looking and looking, 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 and it's right, like the joy that you're actually looking for is right in front
Yeah.
of you.
Yes.
It's just like slow down, be grateful. Know
Yes.
that you can just enjoy your children, be present with every moment of your beautiful children because they're the gift. That's
Yeah.
where the joy is. And our thoughts will make us crazy because we're not actually in the moment with our children or grandchildren. Well, grandchildren more likely because if you've gone through personal growth, you full on present. I'm
Yeah.
full on present. I'm just like, I don't care if they're crying. I'm just like, oh, they're so amazing. I
Yeah.
just I love it all.
Yeah.
But it's so common with people, and I think women have so much pressure to not only be a mom and this amazing mom, but to also do something great. So then you're trying to do something great and you're missing out on the so it's
Yeah.
trying to find that balance, hey?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that you said that, because that was the big realization, that I was looking for work life balance on the outside, but it starts in here. It starts in here.
Yeah.
And fulfillment is not an outside in job, it's an inside out job, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Start from here. You don't start from there. And that was the big realization where, finally, when I came to that understanding that, because it always felt like my results fall short of my efforts. And this is not just in my career, this was across the board,
Yeah.
like my health, my relationships, like I'm doing so much, like, come on, but
Yeah.
um, and then suddenly when you realize it, when those ahas hit, you're like, oh my gosh, I was so blinded. Like I was so, like, uh,
Yeah. So what are the steps you took to become limitless, to go from feeling that limited beliefs? Like whether you thought was it like through Jay Shetty and then what was your progression? And then what are you doing now?
I think, yeah, Jay Shetty is one part of it, and that's kind of just learning from, like, I'm fascinated by people who've had great, how their minds work, like
Mhm.
great achievements, who kind of had the human spirit shine. And if you've read his book, so you know his story,
Oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
Going through all those adversity and where he started in life, and I was just fascinated by that, and wanted to learn from him. And then of course we learned from Maya as well, and met her through Dean and Tony.
Yeah.
um, that's all part of the process, but I feel like ultimately, like, for your being to change, you have to live and experience it. So for me, it really started from physical discipline, expanding, like, the physical thresholds.
Yeah.
So, like, as soon as I had, shut down my store, like, I started yoga consistently, and and for me it's not only a physical but it's also mental, like can I stretch, can, like all those things. And
Yeah, quieting your mind and just
yes,
present with yourself,
training,
connecting with yourself.
training the mind bit by bit that you're actually capable of a lot more than you think, you
Yeah,
know. And your only limit is really you. Like if I want to, be more fit, or like, lose whatever it is, like to feel best in my own skin, really, right? What I need to do for that is really up to me. And then of course it's like, it has to be aligned. It really has to feel like you want it enough for that
yeah,
not to feel like pressured,
yeah.
right?
Well, if
So
it feels aligned too, then it's coming from a place, because you
yes,
don't get lost in your crazy mind, where we all get lost in
yes,
that. If it comes from a place of like knowing that you're more, and it's listening to your inner
yes,
to guide you,
absolutely.
right? So it's hard to do for people though, but that's where you'll find the most happiness.
Yeah,
Connecting with
absolutely.
your true
That
self.
has been the practice. That's been the practice,
Yeah.
exactly. Trying to trust myself more, because doubt, I think, is the biggest enemy of any dream, right? And that has been a constant challenge for me, and I know many,
Mhm.
right? Like, uh,
So where are you now? Are you doing your coach, or do you have your own business? What do you do now? So what have you?
yeah. So I'm a consciousness coach, and I take people through an experience. So, I have a Facebook group, and then I'm also on Instagram. And the whole idea, which was my message to people, is that we were born limitless, right? It's something that I constantly remind myself of, and
Yeah.
it's something that I want to share with people, that we are born limitless, and everything that we dream of and desire is possible on the other side of living and believing this, right? Like that we are limitless. And the
Mhm.
more we lean into that, the more opens up for us. And so it's not really about like having more does not necessarily mean anymore doing more. It just means more leaning into those beliefs and making it your autopilot, and expanding yourself to the world that's out
Yeah.
there, as to what could
So
happen.
are you taking people in your course to like freedom of being limitless? Because
Yes.
like right now, like I mean, I know that I do the compassion project and that, and I've done lots of things, but there's a lot more I want to do. So if I actually had a magic wand, it's like bing, changing that limitless, I'd be like, oh, okay, like I have no fear. I have no fear of anything. I can just do what I want to do. I'd be like, but there's always this little bit of a, that block or something hold you back. And to break through that is like the freedom, right? To be able to help people come over those blocks of limiting, because I do believe we are all limitless, but from our past experience, from when we're children or adolescents or whatever happens, we all have these experiences that are like blocks in us, that when you want to, oh, I want to put my course out, and but they, oh yeah,
Yeah.
you don't, you're good enough. So it's hard to step over that into that
Yes.
limitless feeling. For it's easy to say,
Yeah.
hard to do.
Absolutely. And that's why I believe that there's so much power in community, like to do it together, because I'm not only like when I'm training myself and being with people who are trying to do the same thing. For example, like one of the biggest things for me to like, I talked about yoga, but I think an even bigger shift for me. So if you actually saw my social profile, you'll basically see like zero posts before this year, or like, even I'm just not like somebody who would go on social media. And have a lot of very close friends, and but I'm just not a social media person, right? Like I just wasn't, I've
Mhm.
never been in that way to be out there. But you know understanding the power of social media, like the
Yeah.
reach and the power of it, I knew was important. It took me some time, but I had to break through those beliefs,
Yeah. Yeah.
because it's me holding me back from what is out there. Um, and
It's
so,
you holding you back. It's me holding me back. That's so true.
yeah,
Yeah. You hold
and
yourself back.
yeah, and
Mhm.
so me like leaning into like just doing it and getting out there and trying to, because I had so many like, oh, but will I like be able to come up with pictures and da 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 and all these things? There are so many things that crop
Yeah.
up once you decide to go on a
Yeah.
path, or anything that you want to like conquer, or a fear that you want to whatever you want to conquer or limited belief,
Yeah.
there's things that are gonna, life is gonna show up for you. Oh, but you can't do that, and you can't do it like this, and it has to look a certain way, or it has to be these many people, or if you're not getting so many likes, you're not good enough. Just so much shows up for us, right? Like
It all
constant.
comes down to changing how you think, 100%.
Absolutely.
I think we could talk forever because I thought maybe I should actually have you back on and we'll actually we can bring people through like how to work on your thoughts. It might be an interesting conversation to do that on another time, but
Absolutely. I love
probably
chatting.
should cut it short. So I'm just gonna yeah, because I try to keep these interviews around 20 minutes. So, but I could talk to you forever, I think. So really quickly, if you have a quick, short message, what meaningful message would you like to leave with the world if you had one like kind of statement? What would you say?
You were born limitless.
Born
Limitless.
limitless. Yeah.
Everything you desire is on the other side of that.
Wow. That's
Believing.
good. Favorite book?
My favorite book actually is Rich Dad and Poor Dad
Oh,
by
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki. I think,
Yeah.
again, a great book on like mindset,
Yeah.
abundance mindset, and the scarcity mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a good book. I've read that book. I should read it again. And do you have a favorite quote?
Yeah, I do like this one by Nelson Mandela. It is may your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears. That's what I want.
Your choices reflect your hopes and not your fears. Wow.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you so
After
much.
you're watching this, if you can leave with one thing.
What was that?
I said, I want that for everybody watching this. If you can leave with one thing, that is, I hope that you make your choices out of your hopes and not your.
Wow, that's so beautiful. I love that. Okay, thank you everyone for watching. We really appreciate it. If you want to reach out to Jessica, we'll put your website in the comments so people can check out what you do. And Jessica can help you become limitless. That'd be amazing. I might sign up myself. Anyway, I need to become limitless. I still get held back. Anyway, thank you so much. Appreciate you. We'll put all the links in the comments to check out what Jessica does and if you want to work with her and become limitless. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you.
Okay, bye.